Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. However, when Jack approached the top, his heart started pounding, and when he looked into the well, he got the fright of his life. For a pair of eyes were looking back at him, and he heard a mocking voice in his head say, "Hold off there, Jack. If you want to know the whole world, think again, for I own everything, and unless you embrace me, you shall live and die an impoverished man." Therefore Jack fell down and broke his crown. Then Jill came tumbling after. When Jack stood up, he was not the same anymore. When Jill looked into his eyes, she could not see his heart. And when he looked back at Jill, all he could think of was how to possess her. Well, let me tell you how this predicament came about. Once upon a forgotten time, Jack and Jill grew up in the protected circle of their mother's care. Warmed and nourished around the hearth fire, she shared stories that carried the wisdom of the peoples. Through tales, songs, and cryptic poems, life was an imaginative adventure. Stories to discover each person's gifts, songs praising achievements and longings, and poetic writings expanding the space between the words for deeper feelings. Glowing faces of the family and tribe enjoyed abundance, peace, and security. One day, Father came home and placed a black square in the middle of Mother's circle. "What's that?" she asked. "It's a book." He opened the cover and showed the pages. "It is truly a magical thing. Inside is a pyramid that would allow us to create a better, more perfect world." Mother did not understand, for was not life perfect already? Nevertheless, Father was insistent. "The words of this book are the new law. Carved in stone, it is written for us to learn. Higher will decrees it. We must follow." When he said this, the hearth fire seemed to chill. Mother was concerned. "We already have words that speak to our hearts, transmitted from mother and daughter through the generations around the hearth fire. Without our conjoined understanding, the space between the words will lose depth, and the knowing light of life will fade to shallow meaning." She sighed, then asked, "By what authority does this book enter my circle?" "Of the male god at the top of the pyramid, that's in secret," Father replied. "We are to become civilized and know ourselves as gods over nature." He was looking at Jack, and Jack squirmed. He felt his father's will pull him away from his mother's protection and hid his face. His father drew him aside. "You must not resist, Jack. Freedom comes from conforming to the rules. Consider the book. Learn to be civilized and move up the pyramid of power. Work hard, and riches beyond dreams will be yours." So on that day, when the pyramid landed on the circle and life's learning came from books, Mother's circle of wisdom diminished, with the masculine in the center and the law of one to uphold its rule. Father did not share counsel with Jill. She was left with Mother feeling confused. Life was about a man's world now, with secrets she was not privy to. Jack read many books and learned how to be a cultured man in a pyramid world. At the top, you achieve demigod status and become a member of secret circles where privilege deems that those below unquestionably serve you. In the middle, you get to play a theatre role in the stage of life, acting out scripted dramas to entertain the masses. Then there are cracks to fall down, where the desperate and enslaved are penalized and imprisoned in misery. The rules are basic yet simple. Ownership is everything. We are born to compete, to survive, to own, to hoard, and live confined in majestic castles of defense. The new truth did not quite sit with Jack. The books informed that God endowed man with sole purpose, which women are born to serve without substance. Jack remembered Mother's circle and playing with his sister. They were equals, and he loved her for that. When he was stuck for an idea, she was a mirror with a holistic perspective. His fondest memories was the joy and care they shared. Having to believe she was without a soul was a bitter pill. Nevertheless, he heard his father's voice goading him to comply. "Believe in the pyramid, Jack. Money will buy you power, and power will offer you a taste of immortality." Well, Jack swallowed the pill, and his heart partly closed to accommodate the new truth. He was now ready to seek his fortune. While Jack was away educating himself, Jill stayed at home with Mother. They were trying to hold the circle together through telling the old stories. However, life was about strife and perpetual war now. With the warmth of the hearth diminished and her exclusion from man's world, Jill became sad and started to wear a mask to keep up appearances and hide feelings of disappointment. When Jack came to visit, he was so full of schemes for future profits, he did not notice Mother's failing health. He did notice Jill's sadness though, yet in a monotone voice he told her not to be silly and to buck up. It's the natural order of things, he convinced himself. We must fight the good fight for peace and security to come. Jack learnt that survival in the pyramid is about boxes. He had a separate box in his mind for everything. All the things he owned, his work, his interests and hobbies, his beliefs about God, and places of daydreaming and escapist fantasy. His favourite was a box containing nothing, where he retreated to hide from the world. All the small boxes made up the one big box of his identity and his calculated, ordered world. None of his boxes connected, but he could draw from each for witty and insightful conversations to appear he knew more than he did. One day he received an invitation to meet in a secret place. He found an inner door and after becoming enamoured decided to join the club. Soon afterward he enjoyed a promotion to a commanding position. "Do not pay attention that you have no experience, Jack," they said. "You can join our round table and decide the world's fate. You are one of the boys now." Jack soon became influential and made decisions affecting the lives of millions. He was fully aware of the needless suffering of the many for the advancement of the few, so he switched off empathy and compassion to become a good man, just following orders, to be admired, envied and feared. While this was happening, Jill felt a growing dread in her heart and went to see Jack. "What's going on?" she asked. Jack stood aloof with a politician's smile and distant eyes. "What do you mean?" he replied defensively. "Our mother's circle is suffering. The more you embrace the pyramid, the more the women, children and animals have to suffer. Come back to the circle of the heart, Jack." Jack stared at her with contempt. "The old ways of women must pass. A new order of men must have dominion over the peoples of earth." His eyes glazed over with psychotic intent. Jill got frightened and then angry. "I will fight you, Jack," she called out as Jack's security guard ushered her out the door. Jack then received orders from the top of the pyramid to erase the circle. He felt a twinge of conscience. He did not want to hurt Jill. He just wished she would conform. The new order of global society was more important. She will understand in the end, he deluded himself. He overrode his conscience, his heart completely closed, and he gave the order to persecute. Wise women of Mother's circle became witches, poisoners, troublemakers and whores. Many of Jill's sisters were tortured and killed, along with the men that stood by them. Jill was left stunned, a parody of her old self. Jack dressed her in fine clothes and painted her face, yet resented her now she was powerless. The circle within Jill had retreated deep inside, and Jack could not reach her. In denial of what he had become and what he had done, he started having nightmares and unbalanced ideas of grandeur. He forced Jill to go to the hill and dragged her to the top to prove his superiority. The eyes reflecting back was his own shadow, from the denial of his heart and the subsequent misery caused to humanity and Mother's circle. His mind boxes collapsed, and the fear he always hid from overtook him. He was unmasked and ashamed of his predatory demeanour. Jill scoffed, turned on her heels and walked away. Jack was wretched, yet unshackled from the boxes, felt light and renewed. Now the crown of kings was finally broken. There was no return to his position in the pyramid. The boxes of his mind, which magnetized the beliefs he once defended and would die for, had short-circuited and dissolved, like empty illusions. He knew the collective pyramid culture would undergo the same fate, downfall and awakening. He turned to his heart and asked what to do. He sensed himself in an empty box. Then the walls dissolved, and he was a point in space looking at the earth. All around, the stars of the galaxy smiled towards the blue planet. "How beautiful Mother is," Jack gasped, and saw the family circle of creation. From the universe birthing galaxies of stars to create planets, and from the atoms themselves to create biological life, all are the manifestations of the energetic relationships of father, mother and child. He saw the great circle linking humanity through the nations, tribes, and family hearthfire. Then the pyramid rose up, covering the circle. There was unity, split into a world of opposites, a spectrum of light from full consciousness to anti-consciousness, from our true self to a separate ego self. In a free world theatre of becoming, we are a combination of the light and dark we choose, or the fear-filled suffering along with the dreams of freedom rise to the top of the pyramid, then cycles down to create a lid of belief. Forever repeating, it is a time loop to keep us enslaved in the not-self. Then the pyramid became a triangle of light, and Jack knew it was composed of all the higher love and ascending beyond the boxes of perception. In the time-life of the pyramid, the circle of humanity had been fractured into billions of worlds of separation. Now the matrix of story repeats are over, and it is time to reconnect with the circle in the heart and live happily ever after. Jack imagined an analogy of humanity's predicament. It is as if Mother was forced to marry a distant uncle who had ill intent. He convinced us that we were war-torn orphans, and that he was a mighty force that owns the world. Uncle controls the money supply and is in charge of big business with the mafia to keep order. He has been hiding an inheritance that is due to us and using our wealth of new technologies to perpetuate war and poverty between the nations, tribes, family circle, and unity between Jack and Jill. Jack knew there was no need to fight for freedom anymore. We just need to withdraw our fixation on the system that feeds off our fears. We have grown up and are now beyond the reach of Uncle's lies. We can learn who our true Father is by reconnecting our hearts with Mother Earth and the circle of universal oneness. With this realization, Jack excitedly returned home to Jill. Jill had recovered swiftly. She had survived abuse, rape, beatings, and nearly killed, yet through her prayers she always recovered. In her trials, she had learnt by necessity to beat a man at his own game. When Jack arrived, they sat in silence as equals energetically connecting. They both smiled, held hands, and strolled purposefully towards the hill. When they reached the top, they plunged into the well, and their hearts opened to unconditional love. Cleansed of all their sufferings, they became aware once again of Mother's wisdom and the guiding light of our omnipresent Creator. Jack and Jill were now empowered to manifest a new life. We are going to have to agree a new way to exchange, Jack. We have to restore Mother's abundant circle. The imbalance of the masculine, with all the pyramid empire building and war games, has made us impoverished slaves to an imagined debt. Jack smiled with inner knowing and saw the solution as a vision unfolding while he talked. Words are the wealth of the wealthy. Knowledge is the power of words. Those who know this control minds and the destiny of nations. The pyramid manipulates words through education, propaganda, and political correction to divide and subdue everyone. How else could we believe that the money we make up is more real and worth more than life? We are brainwashed to believe there is not enough when there is plenty for all. The debt economy we serve is an illusion of the ego that enslaves us. We must take back the power of words and express our voices to inspire our heart's awakening. When we come together through our hearts, the usury and corruption of the pyramid will fall away. New technologies for free energy and healing for all illnesses will become available. All life on this planet will be free. This is great, Jack. We'll start a Storywheel and gather in creative circles to share our gifts. So when we share our individual heart stories, the larger story of who we are will emerge. When we are inspired to trust each other again, we can sit in talking circles and envision a new world where everyone is equal and free. We will soon restore Mother's circle. Therefore, Jack and Jill invited all their friends and neighbours to a Storywheel. They had fun sharing arts outside the box and were inspired towards their true potential. Each dissolved their shadow and discovered their inner creative gifts, then climbed up the hill and plunged into the well, causing the pyramid of illusion to dissolve, and a great joy spread across the land. A new cultural movement emerged as male and female sat in circles to redefine roles, and then awakened a vision to manifest a new society based on unity consciousness. With the release of free energy technology, the armies became peacekeepers and all illnesses were healed. When Jack and Jill's in every country became engaged in ending suffering and restoring Mother Earth, all the stars clapped with joy for the majesty of Mother Earth and the birth of her Christ child, humanity.